and welcome back to the Dicebreaker podcast. Wayo.
Hello, Lolies. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you.
And welcome back, Alex Meehan, as well. Both of you out last week, returning for this here podcast.
We're almost birthday triplets.
Almost. I mean, different years as well, so...
Yeah, but you know, it's fine.
What is time
it's
anyway?
The same week.
At some point, you stop counting the years and you only care about the day and the month.
Yes.
So
that's true.
But yeah, how are you both? Welcome back. I'm going to get rid of this cat. She's just doing laps at the moment. She'll jump up, and it's like a little obstacle course because she'll go down on the floor, go around the back, jump up on her towel, jump onto the dining room table, make her way through the microphone wires, and just appear just off screen here. So every time people see me scooping something up, I'm not just doing reps. I am in fact picking up a cat and putting her back on the floor. That's not how you usually come back on the table, Hole. She's
working out off camera.
Yeah, but yes, welcome. It's the Dicebreaker podcast. It's Friday. What a Friday it is. If you're in America, I think you're just about to head into a Labor Day weekend. So I hope you enjoyed the long weekend. But before then, we're here to talk about board games and other stuff.
Yay!
Other
stuff.
Episode number 73, I believe.
73, Queen Bee.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just a rhyme.
Is that you, Lolies?
Queen Bee with two E's or Queen Bee like Mean Girls Queen Bee?
Queen Bee with two E's.
How's that spelled?
Just B, because it stands for something that isn't the animal.
Right, yeah. I've got that bit of Mean Girls.
Yeah, the Murmuring podcast. We're now just ASMR, and the M stands for murmur. Let's get into it, shall we? It seems like we got a lot to catch up on. I was looking at the document, and you both have played a lot in your time off.
Yes.
So let's get stuck in and talk about what you've been up to. Alex Lolies, returning after 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that. 2-3 weeks. I mean, I was off for 2 weeks. I don't know how long it's been since I was on the podcast last, but yes, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I've played so many things. That's the joys, I guess, of having time off and having my friend who I used to work in a board game cafe moved to the same neck of the woods around the same time as me, so we meet up for board games semi-regularly now, which is nice. And so where do I even begin? I'll start with the ones I'm kind of happy to brush over, I guess. I played Lost Cities: The Roll and Write. I don't know if I've ever played Lost Cities, to be honest, but I enjoyed the roll and write. It was really, really fun. I really liked it. I mean, I'm a fan of any roll and write. I've yet to find a roll and write I don't like. So
wow, that's a strong claim. Wow.
It's an Uve as well.
It's
a Knizia. It's a Knizia.
Yeah, it's a Knizia.
The joke is it's either a Uve or a Knizia.
There's always there's a high hit rate on both of those designers. Like there's always a good chance it's going to be an
I can't believe I got that wrong.
If you're not sure, just guess one of those and you'll probably be right.
Fire me, Matt Jarvis. I don't deserve to be here anymore.
Okay, as punishment, you're going to have to write down all 700 of Rona Knizia's games on a blackboard.
Oh, no. Jesus Christ. I played Rampage, which is a fun little dexterity game where you build a city where buildings are held up by meeples. So you've got like 4 different floors. Each floor is being held up by meeples. And then you are playing these kind of dinosaur monster things. And you can then go around and rampage. So you can like drop yourself onto buildings and they go everywhere. Or
that sounds really fun.
You can like flick. You've got a little like round foot token that you can flick at the buildings. It's great if you just want to destroy some things. I was a little bit confused about the rules as we were playing because I didn't think the rules were that clear in the rule book. But it was good fun. It's just like a bit of silly madness. So
is it based on the video game Rampage?
Probably not. I don't know anything about the video game, but I'm assuming it's not.
Or the movie Rampage starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh yeah, definitely that one.
I would say that building buildings with meeples is kind of a horrifying look into our like dystopian future.
Yeah.
Like, what's your job? Oh, it's to hold up like pillar 2B.
Yeah.
But, cool.
Well, that's the thing, because all the meeples have like roles as well. So the yellow meeple is the blonde, I think. The red meeple is the hero. They all have like certain roles in it, and It's quite weird.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it going for like that B movie, like Towering Inferno style, like
What was in the B movie?
not with Jerry
The Queen
Seinfeld?
Bee
Sorry, Jerry
movie.
B
Seinfeld.
hyphen movie, and
Oh, okay.
Don't know. Maybe.
what?
I really don't know. I just played the game. I didn't really read into it or anything.
Sounds really good though. Is it like is it a recent release?
No, I played it a good few years ago. I think when I still worked at Drafts, so this would have been quite a while ago. I remember playing it then, and then I played it like a week or two ago. So yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I wouldn't like necessarily highly recommend it, but it's like it's just fun if you want to destroy something. So yeah, I played the Red Cathedral, which I don't know if either of you have played it, but it's one of those games that like comes in quite a small box, but it's actually like quite complicated. Like when we were going through the rules, I was just sat there, like my friend was going through the rules, and I was like, oh god. And then when you start playing, it's actually really easy and really straightforward, but it's like there's like a lot of information intake at the beginning. That was quite nice. I don't actually remember it that well, so I feel like, and I definitely played that like last weekend, I'm pretty sure, or something. So I feel like it maybe wasn't that good if it hasn't stuck with me that much, but it was fine. I played Sheepy Time, which I believe is a new game, and
Yeah, I've seen it around.
it's so cute. So the design of it, first of all, is just lovely. Like the tokens that you get, the artwork, like it's beautifully designed. It's a push your luck game where you are playing, I think, as the are you playing as the, I don't know, you're playing as the dreams, or the sheep in the dreams, or something like that. And there's like a nightmare wolf, or there's actually different nightmares, but the token is a wolf. And you're going around in circles around this, like, as a sheep, around this like dream circle, I don't know what you'd call it. And then this nightmare is also going around the circle, and you're trying to make like a few laps of it, because there's a little white picket fence, and every time you jump over that, that's like one round, and at that point you can decide whether you want to stop or whether you want to continue. But at the same time, there's like certain cards that will make the nightmare move as well, and once the nightmare goes across the fence, the game, like that round is done. And if you haven't if you're in the middle of doing another lap, when that happens, you lose everything, kind of thing. So it's and then there's like special abilities that get triggered, because certain spaces on the board will, like, you add abilities to them. I'm making it sound kind of complicated, I think, but it's really, really simple, really lovely. Like we just learned it from like 5 minutes reading the rule book, and yeah, really, really nice. I was tempted to buy it, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't that sure. I don't know. It takes a lot for me to buy a game. I really need to love a game. Anyway, so that's Sheepy Time. I played Blitzkrieg World War II in 20 minutes, which is a weird tagline. Which was okay. I don't remember that well. It was like, was it worker placement or area? No, it was area control. And you are like taking spaces, and they give you abilities, and it's like a almost like a bag building game as well, because you put tokens in your bag and you draw them. So it puts mechanics together that I quite like, bag building and area control. But I just in general am not a huge fan on like war based games, especially if they're based on real wars. I just think there's better themes, more enjoyable themes. So yeah, that was a thing that I played. I played Dive, which is terrible, really bad. It's one of those games that utilizes like see-through cards, and so you've got like a stack of see-through cards, and each one of them has like certain sea creatures on them. So it might be a shark, or is it crabs? Maybe crabs, and other fish. I don't know. That's
maybe it's crabs. Yeah.
And then some of the cards have holes in them, and you have to look down, and you have to try and work out how deep certain animals are. So how deep a shark is, and how deep some other things are, and but it's quite hard to tell. I don't know. It just seems like you're guessing. Like I think I won, but it just felt like I was guessing the whole time, and it just didn't. I don't know. It just wasn't impressed. I really wanted to try it because it was actually a recommendation from the games guru who worked at the cafe, and the only other game I'd played with see-through cards before that was Gloom, and I was like, I really, really, really like the concept of see-through cards, but I've yet to find a game that actually does it really well and that I actually enjoy. Like Gloom, I think is a bit meh. Dive, as I say, not that impressed. So, yeah, if you know any,
there was that game on Kickstarter, Canvas, I think it's called. That was a game where you combine like see-through cards with other see-through cards to kind of create like a portrait, like a painting, and you create it to kind of fit certain requirements, so you can score points and things. And that looked really fun. I didn't get a copy, and I've not had a chance to play it, but. When I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, that looks cool." So, if we can get a copy of that,
that would be great. Yeah, because I've yet to find one that like uses see-through cards and is actually good. So, if that's good and you play it, let me know.
The artwork looks very nice, and I like the concept behind it. So maybe I'll get to play it.
I also played Marvel Champions for the first time ever.
First time? Oh wow!
Yeah, because obviously everyone at the channel has played it, as far as I know, except for me, and I finally got to play it. But I have to say, because I was using the copy that was in the office, which I think is your copy, Matt, it wasn't put back terribly well, or
oh dear.
So the first step was
look, he's gonna.
I would like to stay here. That would not have been me, because I'm very.
Yeah, the first step for me, I mean,
away.
You know how many cards there are in Marvel Champions. The first step for us was to go through every single card and like put them in the different places, and then put together our decks and do everything else and actually learn the game. So it was like 3 separate days of us like kind of gearing up to do it. So like there was one day where we started sorting out the cards. That was actually ended up being split into 2 days because it just taking so long. And then I think the third day is when we actually started reading the rules or something. Maybe we read the rules on the second day. I don't know. It took like 3 days for us to actually get to play one game. But now everything's put together neatly. So
that's what happens in the Bible, right? And on the third day, he read the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
We played Marvel Champions.
Yeah, I do remember there being a lot of, because I reviewed it, so I opened it from you, and I remember there being quite a lot of like shuffling the cards and looking at the book and going, how do I build this deck? But
it's quite
don't think you're as innocent. I don't think you're as innocent as you claim to be. I've got my eyes on you. I think you were the one who messed up that box.
Really? I would be surprised, but I mean, I'll hold my hands up because I did play it with someone, I think, in the office, but that was obviously
we played it together at one point, but that was a while ago. I'm not sure if anyone else touched it
at some point.
Oh, we blaming Wills.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah.
I mean, I would. So
yeah, he probably just picked up a part of the stuff and just
shook it, just to really.
Yeah.
Just
he
didn't even
probably
open it, just shake
threw
it
on the ground and then used a broom to sweep it back into the box.
Because of course, Marvel Champions is published by Fantasy Flight Games, who, as we all know, like to make really stupid.
I will say, Marvel Champions, from memory, Lolies, you can correct me on this. I think it has a good inlay. I think it actually has.
No, we were complaining about it.
One of them has spaces to put things in.
Maybe it's does, but it doesn't give you dividers. So and none of the cards. So they have this like beautiful. The inlay is actually really well done. If they gave you little dividers, because there are no dividers, and unless you like make your own dividers, the cards will just fall over. So what I ended up doing is, because I actually couldn't find any like bags, and I couldn't find any rubber bands. I could find one rubber band. So what I ended up doing is taking some baking parchment, putting it into all the different decks, and between each different deck putting a bit of baking parchment, and then tying it all up. It was like, it's not great, but it's the only thing that like will make me open that box again, because as I say, like just putting it all back together just took so long.
Yeah.
So tedious.
I feel like Fantasy Flight, because normally, for those who aren't familiar, like Fantasy Flight is notorious for having the Fantasy Flight trench in every board game box, which is just like raised edges and then just a gap down the middle that everything else goes in.
Right, okay.
and very occasionally they do other board game inlays, but I feel like they still never nail it. It's like Twilight Imperium has a different one, but it doesn't really give you space to separate things out in the way that you would think would make sense, despite being a humongous box with room to organize stuff. And like Marvel Champions.
Yeah, one of the problems with Marvel Champions is that because it's supposed to be a game that you keep adding cards to. So there's a load of empty spaces.
There's a huge amount of empty space.
So that
is my big problem.
Yeah, I've gotten games before where they want you to do that, but they'll give you like a card that you can put in that empty space at least. But there's just nothing. So that is like not great. But
it makes the box unnecessarily bigger as well because there's just so much like.
But I do appreciate if you do go down the line of like, you know, getting everything that you would want the bigger box because you'd want to put everything in the same box probably. But
I mean, it is deliberately, as a living card game, it is deliberately a game that's designed to. I mean, it gets hero packs every so often, and then like the story expansion. The story expansions come in their own box. But like the hero, I think the empty space is deliberately designed for like the hero decks. So if you buy, I don't know, Quicksilver or whatever, you can put him in there and his cards. But yeah, what did you think of the game, Lolies?
I mean, yeah.
It's a box review.
We played one game and 1.5 games, I think. So we played one full game, which is like the kind of the one that they like the starter one that they like kind of
Rhino, right?
They hold your hand through that a little bit, and that was all right. It was actually I enjoyed it. I really did. I think once I got to know the game, I was like, I can see myself really getting into this, but it was just like that initial setup took so long. Then we started playing another game, and we ended up cutting that one short, so we didn't actually finish it. So yeah, we played 1.5 games where we played the same characters, but we had like a different like a villain. I can't remember. It was Claw. Is there Claws?
Yeah, Claws in there.
Yeah, Claws. So it was Claws, and it just felt like, because I think Claws is still technically like a beginner one. It just felt like the difficulty level just like instantly like shot up like a huge amount.
It's really hard, that game.
Yeah,
I was just waiting for you because I was like,
Okay.
maybe Lola, because you're obviously very good at Star Run and stuff like that. So I was waiting for you to maybe just be like, oh yeah, we breezed through it. But Marvel Champions is so hard.
Okay.
Like,
Not just me then.
Yeah.
I was a bit like,
No.
we were a bit like, wait, have we been playing this wrong? Like, what's going on? Why is this just gotten like super hard all of a sudden?
Marvel Champions follows the same kind of approach as like that Fantasy Flight Games has been doing with their co-op card games. In fact, they make them very hard.
Well, you say that, but when I wrote a feature on it for a magazine before I moved to Dicebreaker when it was coming out, and I asked them like, oh yeah, you know, obviously it builds on Arkham and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, and they were like, yeah, we're planning to make it easier in terms of difficulty because you know you want to feel like a superhero, you want to be able to actually win, whereas in Arkham, you know, doom and gloom is all part of it. But yeah, I struggled because I reviewed it, so I played quite a few games of it and struggled, and even by the time I submitted that review was still like, I'm still really bad at this. I just could never get my head around it. I was just that was it.
Okay, so that's a bit frustrating because
Lolies,
Lolies, there's a technical issue going on the video.
That's right. Will's popped
doing...
onto his emails the other day. I think last week's podcast, Will's managed to flash up his email inbox. But
no!
There's nothing to.
Hold on, nobody look at anything. There. Thank you. Right. Okay.
Well, no, we still can't see us. We're looking at YouTube now.
Yeah, you flicked it over onto the browser.
What? Oh God! What have I done?
Can I, mate? Matt and I have become YouTube.
I need Be Right Back screen is what I need right
technical difficulties.
There we go. There's Meehan.
Hey, I'm here.
Whoops, sorry about that. I forgot that I was doing capture, like screen capture rather than.
That's the kind of behind the scenes glance you get when you watch us live.
That's what the viewers like. Yeah, they like the honesty. It's just honesty. You know, it's just like, hey, we're here, we're live.
Right. Okay, I was trying to make that like nicer for me, but it's fine. I'll just look over here. It's fine.
But yeah, I will say with Marvel Champions at least, like I think it does give you more options to alter the difficulty if you want to. Like, I think there should be some sort of like disclaimer before you play the game saying, hey, if you play on like standard difficulty, this is actually really hard.
Yeah.
So like I think they do provide either in the rule book or maybe online or something on the website, they do provide ways for you to change the kind of difficulty to make it a bit more like a bit easier and harder as well. There are actually ways to make that game even more difficult because it's all kind of based around like how often the villain does its villain thing and
Right,
like
okay.
what the effects of that are. So obviously every round the villain goes as well. So like depending on how much stuff that villain does every single whenever it's its turn, then you can kind of make it a bit easier or you can make it a bit harder, which is what I really appreciate about that game. Like I don't think I actually mind it being that as difficult as it is, because I think it does provide ways for you to kind of alter and change that. But it is a funny kind of experience where you're like, hey, this is a Marvel game, I just think you don't expect it to absolutely destroy you.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I think it rates quite high, like in the board gaming kind of community.
Yeah, it's really good. I like it a lot.
Okay, well, as long as it's like not off-puttingly hard, because like
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's funny because you think the audience is kind of aimed at is like Marvel fans, but I prefer that they went down this route rather than like make it really shallow, if that makes sense. I'd rather they like commit a bit more to, making it like, I'm not like you should be a hardcore gamer, because they do provide ways of making it easier if you need it to be. But I do think that the system works really well. I think each deck, at least the one that I played from the core game, I think they kind of make you feel like, it makes you feel like you're a group of heroes like on the brink of this terrible thing happening and you're the only thing standing between, total disaster. I kind of like the fact that it does actually make you feel that sense of like desperation where it's like, oh god, like we are together in this. Like,
yeah, I think that is definitely like you have to kind of work together, like you say, and kind of know your character and the best things to do.
Yeah.
So it's not like one person can just pull everyone through. So in that case, it does kind of lean into that. But yeah, it's just, I think it's like you say, it's surprising at the start because it can be quite punishing.
It's a bit like ooh.
There is there is a reason why like there are certain decks that are designed to be support decks, because I think there are actual like not optimum but like better combination of characters if you really want to like defeat the standard difficulty. Yeah, it's funny. I think it could be a bit more accessible, but I kind of like the fact that they kind of, what's the word? They went for it. If that makes sense.
I think there's plenty of accessible games for
Marvel games. There's plenty. It's nice to have. Lee Hiscox is talking about the X-Men Mutant Insurrection, which we have a review of on the website. The review seemed pretty positive in terms of like it being it's essentially Elder Sign, which
I think Sam really enjoyed it. But yeah, like Lee points out, like I think it is quite difficult because Elder Sign also
is difficult. Elder
like
Sign,
all of those Arkham Horror games just don't.
Yeah.
They really don't give you much.
So once again, this is kind of based on an existing system, in this case, Elder Sign, which fits a lot better with like, hey, this is the end of the world. This is, the Elder Gods are coming to destroy us. It fits a lot more that it's as difficult as it is. Whereas Mutant Insurrection being as difficult as, I think our reviewer, I can't remember who reviewed it. It was one of our contributors.
Sam Nelson.
Sam, that's it. You literally just said their name. I think Sam seem to really enjoy it. And I think that game has some really interesting ideas around cooperation as well, in terms of like if you have certain mutants working together on missions and they can form alliances, and that boosts their kind of abilities and things, which is really fun and interesting. But yeah, I feel like things might have been a bit derailed there. But what else have you played, Loli?
I played Junker, which is just one of the best dexterity games ever.
Yeah,
because it's several games, which is great. If you don't know what Junker is, it's a game where you get a bunch of like shapes in 4 different colors, and they're just like randomly in the middle of the table. And then there's several different rule sets that come in the game based on cities. So based, like, if you're in New York, there's the rule is that you like play until the cops show up. Or if you're in I can't remember, Amsterdam, I think you have to build the tallest structure. But they're all very much themed around city, like the cities that they're based on. So there's, I think, is there New Orleans as well or something like that? Anyway, there's loads of great cities in there. And so you get like several games in one game, but they're all obviously dexterity games. And you are creating art out of this like junk that you get. So, you know, be like just random shapes of things, and they're quite hard to build with. So like one of them is almost entirely a circle. It's just got like a one flat edge. Like, how do you build on top of that? One of them's like a really long, like cylindrical thing. And it's like, where do I put
donut?
that? There's a
donut piece.
There's a donut piece.
That's my favorite, the donut piece.
It's just really, really good. And it's one of those games that I've wanted to like add to my own collection for a while, and I almost bought it, but then last minute I didn't buy it because I was like, you know what, I just need to play some of the games I've got at home before I go buying more games right now.
Viewers and listeners, if you wouldn't know this, but last time Lolies came to visit the office, she took away a veritable just a boatload of board games.
I think I took home 3 bags. One of them was an
3
IKEA bag.
big bags. Yeah. 3 big bags. We were all just standing there watching her slowly collect this pile. And we were like, you didn't really want all of this?
Well, see, okay, I mean, for context, we were doing a big clear out. So we, like, the games over the last 2 or so years in the office have just, like, you know, we get sent a lot of games and just, like, piled up to the extent that, like, the small little Calyx that we have was too small already before, like, 2 years ago, really, to be honest. And it's only just grown. So, like, there's, like, several corners of the office where there's just piles of board games on the floor.
It was unwieldy.
I kept getting, like, weekly emails from our HR department to be like, could you do something about this? It's and I was like, I haven't been in the office in 2 years. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
so we were all in the office together, and we're like, let's do a big clear out and, you know, give some stuff to like charity, but also before we do that, if anybody wants to take any games for themselves, go for it. So we all went through the games, and I was like, well, I haven't played this, I'd like to play this. You know, like, there was just a bunch of games that I either really liked when we played it before, or that I'd never gotten a chance to play, and I wanted to have a chance of playing.
I think the main excuse was something like, there's a kid that I know, and I think they'd really like this. That was the main excuse.
I mean, I took one or two games, like the Harry Potter Funko Pop one, and was it like a unicorn glitter something?
Yeah.
Those were generally for a kid, like that. Those are not for me.
oh, okay. She says they're not for
It's true. It's true.
But it's fine, because as long as they're being used, then it's all right. And
there was still like, I mean, even when we left and we'd all taken our pick, there was still like a huge, like, a mountain of games that were going to a very worthy local charity. So you know, I didn't take everything from the charity.
Yeah.
Whereas I had just a meager little pile to take home. Well, 3 or 4 things.
I phoned up that charity and was like, oh yeah, would you be able to collect these board games? We have about 50 to 60. They're like, how many? I was like, 50 to 60? Something like that. They did come and get them. It was very good. They didn't have to take all of them, but Yeah, they cleared out everything else, so we
Yeah,
now have space in that
We
calyx.
have a
Yay.
system.
Well, it's
Yeah.
quickly filled up because we've got a copy of Descent that fills an entire calyx
Oh,
cube by
yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
So
I was looking at that like through a shop window the other day, and I was like, oh, there's the box, and I thought, you know, it was like normal box size, and then I realized that was just a little dent, and that was like that
No.
plus a little bit extra on the back of it
Yeah.
as well, and I was like, oh, that's just the lid. Right.
Yeah, no.
okay.
Yeah, Descent is an island. You could
It's
live
mountains.
on it.
Yeah.
It's free real estate.
it's enormous.
And then the only other thing I've played, and I've left it for last because this is the one I actually wanted to talk about a little bit. Well, I guess I can't talk about it too much, but I've played my first ever Legacy game all the way through. I played it through in a number of days. Machi Koro Legacy. Now, okay, I have things to say about this.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things. I want to hear Loli's perspective.
Right, okay, so my problem with it, first of all, Machi Koro is a broken game. It's a game that's broken from the beginning before you even add anything else to it.
So we're starting off by we're coming for Machi Koro first.
Yeah,
right.
see, right, okay, so years ago when I was first introduced to Machi Koro, I was like, yeah, this game is alright, but there was something I didn't like about it, and I never really knew what it was, and that's why I never owned the game for years and years and years. And then we played it on Dicebreaker on a stream last year, and I really, really enjoyed that stream, so I was like, do you know what, maybe I was wrong about Machi Koro, because that happened to me with Catan as well. I hated it for years, and then I played it with, like, some group of people, and I was like, oh my god, I actually really like it. So I was like, okay, maybe I was wrong about Machi Koro, and I actually really like it. So I even got, like, my mum got it for me for Christmas, and I was like, great, I own it now. And I played a couple of games of it, and I quickly realized why I didn't like it, and it's because the game is broken. Once you know how to break the game, it's just broken for life. There's no way of, like, fixing. Well, I guess there probably is a way of fixing it if you remove certain cards, but it's just like, so essentially there's a way of playing Machi Koro where, in case you don't know how it works, is you're building like a city based on buildings, and the buildings have numbers on them, and you roll 1 or 2 dice, and if you roll a number that's on your cards, you'll get like a certain benefit, usually money. And there's like some of the higher numbered cards, like an 8 for example, you get money based on how many of a certain card type you have, which I think is a cog type in this case, and an 8, which is going to be one of the most commonly rolled numbers with 2 dice, 7, 8, and 6 would be next in line, is only worth 2 coins, which is very cheap in the game, so it's very easy to buy those 8s, and the cogs, like, I think you start with those in your starting hand possibly. Anyway, it's a very simple strategy to go down and get the 8s and the 5s, for example. And all of a sudden, if you roll 1 8, you can make, like, my friend who I was playing with rolled 1 8, and he was getting like 120 gold or something, which is just ludicrous, like, every single time. And it was like, it's just so broken. So it's just really, really broken to start with. So in Machi Koro Legacy, I was like really excited to get started. It was my first Legacy game. They just take Machi Koro and they just add a bunch of stuff to it, and it feels like they never tested it, because a lot of the stuff that they add just help that broken system, especially that 8 and 5 system that I'm talking about, because like they add a lot more cogs, for example, to the game, and they like remove other things that you could potentially do to combat that 8 and 5 system. They like remove that throughout the game, and it's just really frustrating. And it was like, I won the first game. This is 10 games in total that you play in the Legacy version. I won the first game, and I was like, great, awesome, off to a great start. I lost every single other game, and it was like really frustrating because my friend was doing this 8 and 5 thing, and I was trying to stop him. Like, I was trying to go down the 8 and 5 route as well, or next time I would do something else because the 8 and 5 thing wasn't working for me, and nothing would work. I just couldn't stop him. He just kept winning, like, and it was just soul destroying. And yeah, just not a big fan. It's not great.
Yeah,
I'll say defensive Legacy game, I think they generally work better when they're co-op, because you have that kind of sense of going through it together, whereas competitive ones, it's the problem that I think Seafall has, and Seafall, a lot of people don't like Seafall, but when we went back to it and replayed it again, we actually basically turned it into a co-op game where we were just kind of exploring, and we didn't worry so much about the competitive element, and it made it so much better, because I think you're right. It's like when you're competing against each other, games can try and balance that. But if someone starts to get ahead, because games then kind of tumble into the next game, it's really hard sometimes to just catch up. So yeah, that's a shame.
Wonder now, Machi Koro, I do wonder, especially with the legacy version, if it might have been better with like more than 2 players. But if that was the case, I think they should not sell it as a 2 to 4 player experience, because as a 2-player game, it's definitely broken. Maybe 3 and 4 players is different.
It should be the case where if someone is consistently winning, I feel like either they're just very, very good at the game, or the game needs to balance itself to give the loser a kind of fighting chance. In the same way that, like, in Pandemic Legacy, for example, try not to give too many spoilers, but essentially in depending on how well you do in each month, the game either makes it harder or easier for you, kind of like from the next time you go around, because it's almost like balancing itself to kind of fit with like how well you're doing and everything, which I think is really, really clever, and it makes the game work so much better, because then it means like you're not having the same experience every single time. Number 2, it kind of tries to ease any potential frustrations you might have, because obviously there are lock elements in Pandemic Legacy so you can't necessarily always control that. And I feel like competitive games should take a leaf from that book, and maybe like, if whoever won last time has some sort of handicap or something, and whoever lost gets like a benefit that evens the playing field a little bit more. It surprises me that there isn't something like that.
Well, this is the thing in Machi Koro Legacy. To make things even worse, one of the things that the winner gets to do for the next game is choose there's like a double-sided deck of cards, and you get to choose which side you end up using for the next game. So it's like, if you're playing a certain strategy, you then get to choose the side of the cards that are going to help your strategy that you're already using. And it's just like, there's at no point is there ever a chance for the person who's not doing as well to have like any chance of claiming
having a
anything
comeback, because that's boring when it's just like you don't want to watch the same person win every single time. Like when you're I don't know some sort of sport quote. It's boring if you watch the same sort of team win every time, unless obviously you're a fan of the team or whatever. But like, it should go for the same with this. Like it just I get like rewarding someone for winning and everything, but I feel like winning itself should be the reward. Like I don't know why. I just don't think that's very good balancing at all. Like,
and they get to go first in the next game.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe get them to choose the next card, but the loser gets to go first next time. Or like, it just doesn't make any sense. It just makes them like the person who's winning even stronger. It's like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, would not recommend Machi Koro Legacy.
Yeah, I've heard bad things about it as well. I had a friend who'd played it and said it's not very good.
I've got Pandemic Legacy, and I'm very excited to try that though.
Yeah, Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which I still haven't finished and probably will never finish now, because the person I was playing with no longer lives with me. What we did play of it is very good, so I think you'll enjoy it. My recommendation as well is try not to play it I don't think it works very well if you play it in one long stretch, because essentially every month of Pandemic Legacy is roughly the same basic, like at its core, the same game. There are like things obviously that make each month somewhat different, but it's still Pandemic at its core. So I personally don't think it's very fun to play it over and over. Matt Jarvis is smiling because he probably did that with Season 0.
My wife and I, when we played Season 1 as well, we played probably in 4 or 5 hour bursts.
I don't know how the hell you do that, because I would get bored. Because even though Pandemic Legacy is really good, I personally think it's repetitive if you play it too
Depends
much.
how much you like
or-
Pandemic, I guess. Like we, particularly at the
No,
time.
I
we
think
really, really loved Pandemic,
anything.
so we were
Like
just...
if you're doing anything for too long, where it's basically the same game, like maybe you're just different. But I personally.
My wife
would
has spent
find that
12 years with
boring.
me, so I think, you know, like at this point, she's learned to just get used to the same old nonsense for a long stretch of time.
But obviously, Lolies is up to you what you kind of want to do. But my only worry would be if you try to do it. My other thing about maybe why you didn't enjoy Machi Koro Legacy, aside from the fact that it's not very good at its core, is also because you might have I just feel like playing the same kind of game over and over again, like multiple days in a row. I would find that, like, I think it would highlight to me any issues, however minor there might be with it, because you're just spending more time with it over a shorter period of time. You're just gonna notice that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's up to you how you experience it. But don't do what I do, which is play it once every 5 months and then just never finish it.
Yeah, I think that was kind of part of it. I was like, well, if we just keep going, we'll be able to just finish this in a couple of days.
Yeah, but then I feel like
and the thing is with Machi Koro as well, it's, you know, the game only takes about half an hour, so you can quite easily play a couple of games in the space of 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's up to you. Like, my only worry was it becoming a chore. Like, we're just gonna get through this, and I'm like, it should be something that you enjoy, but.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want, right? It's like you want to feel excited about, oh, what's going to happen this next game, rather than be like, this again.
Here we go, again.
Slog on through. All right, Lolies, that's everything.
Wow. 40 minutes in.
I think I've missed out one game, but I can't. No, that's everything. That's everything.
All right, Alex Meehan.
Right. Speed round, baby.
we've got time because I have not played much at all. So
okay, well,
take your time. Don't.
You can have your 10 seconds. So since I've been on the podcast, I've played. I'll just speed through these ones because I've talked about them before. We played some 6 Nimit or 6 Nimt or whatever you want to call it. It's a classic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know it, you love it. It's fantastic. I played it in person.
Professional mode is better than normal mode. That's my take.
I don't know what that is.
So on BGA, you can play professional or you can play standard. Professional means that when you place the cards, they go either after or in front of the line.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which I prefer.
I've not played it like that, but we played it in person, which was really special.
It's hard in person because it's like, especially if you play professional, because then it's like a mess.
It's actually harder to kind of see like what's going on and what's out there. I didn't do too badly. I didn't lose, but I didn't win either. But that was fun. I played some more POKÉMON, the trading card game.
Mm-hmm. Was this the Let's Play you did with Liv?
I played POKÉMON : Battle Academy.
Battle Academy.
That. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would be something. You were the one who said it, Matt Jarvis. You can't make that face.
Look, it's there. It was teed up.
I genuinely wasn't aiming for that, but now you've highlighted it. No, yeah, I played some Battle Academy with Liv. You can watch that video right now on this YouTube channel, but don't go away yet. Like, finish this and then watch it. But yeah, it was interesting. Like I said to Matt, I feel like the decks, it really is baby's first Pokemon. And like, as it is, Pokemon as a card game isn't the most complicated out there regardless, which is kind of what I like about it, because it is a nice break from the kind of overwhelming nature of a game like Magic. But this really is like, EMBRYO'S first Pokemon. It's Jesus. Like it's like,
pretty sure Embryo was in like Gen 3, wasn't
it? There is like an embryo Pokemon. It's weird. But the two base, so you've got 2 base decks and you've got an advanced deck. The 2 basic decks are very like boring. There's like one kind of special card in there, which is like either a Raichu or a Charizard GX thing, which kind of has a semi-interesting mechanic. I played with the Pikachu one, which is significantly worse than the Charizard one, because the Pokemon in it are kind of garbage, and like even like at least with the Charizard one, you've got like Charmander, Charmeleon, and then Charizard. With the Pikachu one, you've got Pikachu who sucks.
Oh, that's very
Absolutely
harsh on
sucks.
Pikachu.
No, he sucks in the game, Matt Jarvis. He sucks in this deck. He is so bad.
Have you played wasn't there like a recent like MMO Pokemon game? I forget what it's called.
No, it's Unite, Pokemon Unite.
I played that. Yeah, I played that, and honestly, it was the worst experience ever. And Pikachu will not, like, in that version, Pikachu won't evolve at all. So Pikachu just stays Pikachu, whereas like
Pokemon. It's
Charmander
because they love
will go
Pikachu. Yeah. Like,
so
and
stupid.
even then, like the Raichu GX card is worse than the Charizard one. So not only do you just have the worst of both worlds, and the other Pokemon are not good enough to kind of make up for that. It was funny to see Liv with about 50 Salandits. They were rubbish. But I won one and Liv won one. And then we didn't get to use the Mewtwo deck, which hopefully is a bit more interesting than the other two. And then I also played some Pokemon with a Blastoise V deck and a Venusaur V deck. Trying to explain this, right, is like me talking to my mum about like board games. This is what it feels like.
There's so many prefixes for the Pokemon cards. I'm writing some of the stuff on the site, trying to wrap my head around. Okay, so this one's V, this one's V Max, this one's a GX, this one's
V and V Max are different. So you gotta remember they're different things.
VX, GX, V Max.
It could be worse, Matt. We could be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, which is like another level above that, where it's just what the hell, like
when they're having to kern the text onto the card. It's the Blastoise V and the Venusaur V. Venusaur V is my favorite wrestler from the 70s.
Again, these were like fairly beginner decks, so they're kind of designed like when you get one, they come with a coin that you can flip and like a little book to kind of explain the rules and a mat as well that you can play with. So I think they're designed for people to get into the game. And they're better than the ones in Battle Academy, Battle Academy. But they're still not great. And again, one was clearly better than the other. I will say Pokemon, like balancing, just like any card game, there are balancing issues, but when these decks are like pre-made and they're designed to be played like as that deck, it kind of sucks when one is very clearly better than the other. And again, the Venusaur one had some really interesting, great Pokemon in there that worked well together. Like there's this one Pokemon called Durant, who is an ant.
I know it, yes. Like
Lolies
a metallic
knows it.
ant. Yeah.
Yeah, you love it.
You love it. You hate
and
it. You don't care about it.
You hate it. Well, I hated it because I was playing against it. And if you have a Durant in like as your active Pokemon and other Durants on your bench, then your active Pokemon Durant attack is like massively boosted. And I'm like, that's a really good mechanic. That's cool. Oh, look at my rubbish water deck with like nothing of worth in it, like a Sharpedo who's vaguely okay. Yeah, so that was my Pokemon experience. Angel Beat says Durant. Yes.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of like a Hungry Like the Wolf.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, you can't. Other stuff I played some Cockroach Poker, which is a really great game.
Kakalaka. Oh wait, is Kakalaka something else?
No, Kakalaka
Poker.
I have it in French. I own it. I've never once played it, but I've had it for years and years and years.
You're missing out, Lolies. It's great. In Cockroach Poker, it's really simple. It's a bluffing game where you sit around a circle and then you've got your hand of cards. And the idea is that you're supposed to make someone take a card of each type. So the different types are based on like bugs and rats and bats and kind of creepy crawly things like that. So you want someone to pick up a card of each one of those. And you do that by getting one of your cards, flipping it over so it's like face down, and then handing it to someone, and either you can say what it is, for example, a cockroach, or you can say, oh, it's a bat. And then the person you give it to can either call you out, saying that they either think it's not a cockroach, for example, or it's a cockroach. Or they can take it, look at it, and pass it to someone else and claim it's a cockroach or it's a stink bug or something like that. And if you get called out, oh, it's a cockroach, and it is a cockroach, you get it. But if they say it's a cockroach and it's not, then they have to take it. So it's kind of like a bluffing game where you just try and basically mess. Yeah, Lolies. It's like what you were about to say there, which we can't say because it's a naughty word. But it's essentially a game where if you've played it enough, like my friends have, it's a game where you just you just mess with people's minds. Like one of my friends was, I think it was he claimed multiple times. He claimed that different cards were bat cards. So he did that several times in a row, and none of them were bat cards. And I'm like, how can you be so audacious, you absolute wild man? But there are other games in that series that are also really fun and kind of play off that idea. And one of them is called Cheating Moth, and I really want it. And Cheating Moth is so funny because it's like a game where you want to get rid of cards, but you can actually like hide cards wherever you want. And as long as someone doesn't catch you doing it or find them, then like it's perfectly legal, like whatever you want to do. So you can like hide them in your pocket, like under the table, like behind a plant pot or something. I love the idea of that. It's just like the silliest, stupidest, most wonderful thing.
I do quite like games where like the aim or like one of the aims is to cheat. I don't cheat. I'm not a cheater. I hate cheating. But if the rule of the game is to cheat, it allows me to cheat, and because I never do it, I'm like, oh yeah, I get to try cheating.
I think Cheating Moth is like cockroach poker, so it's almost like there's like a meta game within the game. So the main game is cockroach poker, but then within that game, there's a game of trying to hide as many cards as you can without people spotting you. To me, that sounds like just the great basis of a drinking, like late night silly game. Because then afterwards, obviously, when someone wins, you go, okay, where are they then? And then everyone has to reveal where their cards
just open their jacket.
Yeah, they just open their jacket and they all fall out. And we also played another really fun game called Detective Club, which I've talked about on Dicebreaker before. It was my game of the year in 2019. It's a really good game. It's like along the lines of Dixit Mysterium, where you have these very complicated, weird, illustrated cards that kind of form like the basis of the game. But in this game, you kind of use cards to communicate themes. And there's one person who doesn't know what the theme is, because everyone gets these little booklets with the theme written on it, apart from one. And then essentially the aim of the game for everyone who's not like the imposter is to try and figure out who they think the imposter is. And the aim of the game for the imposter and the person giving the theme is to try and like get them away with it. So it's really fun because you have to, at one point, you have to explain why you played the cards you played and how they relate to the theme. If you're an imposter, that's fun because then you have to like quickly come up with an excuse if they're nothing like the cards that are there or the theme. And it can be really fun because sometimes the people who aren't the imposter, their hand is just really bad and just doesn't fit with this theme, and they could be called out for something they're not guilty of. So Detective Club is, to me, like Dixit, but much better because it takes that kind of frame and adds like a really good system onto it. Same with like Mysterium does something similar. That's why I think those two games are just infinitely superior than Dixit. And then I also played a really unexpectedly fun game called Telestrations Upside Down.
Oh, I think I know this.
Right. So I love Telestrations. I think it's a really great party game. I do want to get the new edition of it because I've got the really old one. and it's gotten a bit scabby now. But it's one of those games that is just fantastic. I've never had a bad time with it. It's the ultimate party game, in my opinion. Telestrations Upside Drawn, it's called, is like, initially you're like, how is this kind of connected to Telestration? Because it's almost nothing like it, in the sense that the basis of the game is people work in teams, and one person is trying to get the other person to guess what their word is by having one person hold a pen and the other person moves the board around to get them to draw the thing. And initially you're kind of like, this sounds a little bit like a gimmick and we're not sure if this is going to work. You know, how is this related to illustrations? But you know what? We had a really good time with it. Like, we had a lot of fun. There was a lot of laughter. I think it's because we deliberately went for the most difficult ones possible, because the easy ones are often too easy and they're guessed too quickly and they're not hugely fun. But there is this one like type of word which are basically phrases. And if you go for the phrases one, trying to draw that is really, really hard. And at one point, someone was trying to get someone to guess, I think it was Bull in a China Shop. And what they drew was nothing even vaguely looked like a bull. It looked like a mucus ghost or something. It looked like a mucus ghost. It was funny. It did produce some really funny moments, including one bit where my friend, I can't say the full phrase because it's got a naughty word in it, but she was trying to get like the board and move it properly. The person was holding the pen, and you have to say to the person like up and down. So when you say down, they put the pen on the board, and when they say up, you have to lift it up. And at one point, she was getting really frustrated, and she said something like, turn that pen around and rub that thing out right now. It's really funny. So Upside Drawn was surprisingly good. I enjoyed it. That's it. I'm done.
Way.
All right.
Oh, 15
Nice.
minutes. Bam.
Look at
Matt
that.
Jarvis.
I played more Descent. I've spoken enough about Descent, but I played some of it with Liv on Tuesday, so there'll be a Let's Play coming up soon.
Oh, goodness.
I was drafted in as an emergency replacement for Wills, who had to run off for something that was going on at the time. But yeah, it was really good. That game continues to be great. We played the tutorial into like the first scenario because it kind of introduces the very basic concepts, and then it moves you into like the first full scenario. Yeah, continue to really like that game. I think actually on that video it highlights some of the things that I don't like so much about it, where it's a little unclear at the beginning about things like skill cards and equipment and armor, which is stuff that you get later in the campaign, but it's not really mentioned in the rulebook as far as I can see. I've looked through a couple of times now because obviously I'm reviewing it when I finish the campaign, and the app never really introduces it either. So it was just kind of a thing where during the campaign, my wife and I looked at each other like, we should probably be using this stuff by now, right? It's like, because it kind of references it, but it never really explicitly says here's how this works. Here's, this, that, and the other. It's kind of odd, but on the whole, I still really like that game. I think, as I've said before, the big question mark is it's 175 quid or $175. I am now about 30 hours into that campaign, and I'm still going strong, but I don't know how long it is. I've heard reports that it's about 50 hours long, and I want to see where it goes, because if it's about 50 hours long for 175 quid, that's a lot of game for a board game. But
yeah, like we've said before, I think you're really supposed to buy it with multiple people. Unless you're like, you have that kind of money to spend on something like that. I think it's really designed to be bought with multiple people. But this is not me apologizing for that price tag, because it is expensive. Holy hell, it is expensive.
Yeah.
But I really think it's not intended to be bought by one person. I think it's intended to be bought.
How many
as a
hours
group.
do you get out of Gloomhaven? And that's like 150 quid.
Yeah.
More hours, right?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm wondering, and I think Descent is very much going for the premium. Obviously, Gloomhaven has miniatures as well; it has a lot of cards, But Ascent has like the 3D terrain, it has the companion app, it has like these very nicely sculpted miniatures. So I think it is definitely going for the like quote premium kind of experience. But whereas Gloomhaven has like a lot of cardboard standees, which, you know, there are ups and downs to both of those. Like you don't need 50 miniatures for every game. So that I think is the big question that's hanging over this. Is I'm really enjoying it so far, but for the price that it is, you could probably buy, at this point, Gloomhaven has come down in price. You could probably buy Gloomhaven and then 2 other smaller games, and you could probably get something. You know, you're not going to get that exact experience, but you would probably get something very close to that experience, plus something and something, or just save some cash. So I think that's the big question mark. And like I say, once I actually finish it, I'll be able to make that judgment call for real. But I continue to play Descent.
Come back here in
4 years. We are getting through it. It's been busy. Also played more Avatar, the RPG Avatar Legends. One from news reporter Chase running a game for us outside of work. Really enjoying it. Continue to really like it. Like it does a great job of capturing that world. I'm having a blast with the characters that we've made and the world.
It's no longer on Kickstarter anymore.
Oh yeah, it is. It's done on Kickstarter.
Finished
yesterday. A boatload of money.
Yep.
Which actually, sorry, Meehan.
I'm just going to say I hope they're able to fulfill all their pledges.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of people that backed that game. The most funded RPG on Kickstarter, in fact, Tabletop RPG. Which leads us nicely into this week's news, because I pulled just some kind of interesting stats. I spoke to an analyst, Thomas Bedeau, over at ICO Partners, who kind of does like semi-annual, every quarter or so, or every half year, kind of runs the stats on Kickstarter. So we put up a story about this, but it's kind of staggering. So 28 games have made over $1 million, tabletop games that is, have made over $1 million on Kickstarter this year. And that includes 5 tabletop RPGs plus Avatar, because it's only just ended, so it wasn't actually counted. So at least 6 tabletop RPGs. And before this year, only 4 tabletop RPGs had ever made more than $1 million on Kickstarter. So in the space of half a year, 6 months, because it goes up to the 1st of July, we've seen more RPGs make $1 million than in the 9 years that Kickstarter's been going. However long it's been going, I think it launched like 2012. Maybe it launched before that. Maybe it was like 2009. But anyway, a lot of money going into tabletop games, and like I say, and that's plus 24 board games or other tabletop games. So among those things like The Witcher, Old World, like a lot of video game stuff. So Monster Hunter World was in there. Stellaris, the strategy game.
Frosthaven,
board game.
obviously.
Frosthaven was last year.
Oh,
so
sugar.
Not counted in the first half of this year.
But that's not even counted. Whoa.
Yeah. So I just kind of pulled that as like a measure, because I think Kickstarter is such a big force in this industry. And people are often like, "Oh, the bubble's going to burst this year." And we've obviously seen, as we've reported, things like shipping has been really impacted lately, and fulfillment dates, and obviously everything going on with COVID and the coronavirus. But we're already on track for yet another record-breaking year on Kickstarter for tabletop games, and I think this is like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th year running that it will be the record-breaking year. So it just seems to be just not going anywhere, at least, but certainly not slowing down. It's part of it will probably
be as well, more bigger companies are utilizing Kickstarter, aren't they? So that'll be bringing the average up, I reckon.
I think it says a lot that a lot of the games that Thomas pointed out are licenses. So like I say, The Witcher, like obviously Avatar, Stellaris. Even Stellaris isn't a huge video game. It's kind of a niche video game, but it's got enough of a following in the video game world where it still racks up a lot of interest when it crosses over. So yeah, I think it's probably a sign of things to come in terms of what we're going to see is a lot more licenses, because
I don't know,
they bring in a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah, they do bring a lot of money, but that's just what we're seeing from Kickstarter. Like Loli said, I think a lot of these companies weren't using Kickstarter before. Like, I'm personally not a huge fan of them doing it because I don't think they need to. And I think they mostly do it because it's like a fail-safe for them. It's like, I mean, granted, at the moment it's very difficult in the tabletop gaming industry because of, you know, issues with finding containers to ship things in and, you know, like ports basically just not operating because of COVID. Obviously, there's a lot of investment required to make a tabletop game, but I just think there are certain publishers using Kickstarter at the moment. CG Project Red, get out of here, be gone. Do not use Kickstarter. You don't need to. You know, I think with Magpie, for example, I think that's different because Magpie is a relatively very small publisher in comparison to the others. Sure, Avatar is like a huge license and they've done extremely well with this RPG, but I still think that I don't think Magpie would have been able to do that like without a Kickstarter. I just don't think they would have been able to manage because they're a small role-playing, you know, game company. Like, whereas other, you know, companies using it, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I just think it's not necessary, and I think it takes attention away from, you know, like projects that deserve it. Because to me, I would rather see more projects getting funded than like projects getting loads of money. If that makes sense. Like, for me, Kickstarter, the biggest advantage of it, the greatest thing about it, I think, is the amount of variety that you can see on it. Like, you know, whether that's tabletop gaming or outside of that space, like, it's there because these sort of things wouldn't be picked up by a publisher. Like, that's why they're on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, you know, Monster Hunter World, like, that has like a publisher, like, it has a massive name to it. Like, I just personally, I don't see why it's on Kickstarter, you know, besides like it's playing it very safe. And obviously lots of people are willing to pledge to these things. Like, it shows with how much money they're making. But like I said, I think that takes the attention away from, you know, Kickstarters that actually really need that money and that attention. And also they're priced a lot less. Like, a lot of these smaller Kickstarters are like £15 or whatever. Like, you know, someone could spend like pledge £15 for like 5 different Kickstarters that really needed it, instead of, you know, like putting a load of money into one big one that frankly does not need it. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's
Live
the
from the
classical thing, right?
proletariat.
It's like, they don't, like, you're right, like, these big companies don't need to do it, but actually for them there is literally no downside because obviously, like, clearly
Exactly.
they're getting bigger and bigger, they're making money, there's no risk to
Yeah.
them, so they're going to keep doing it while people are still
I'm not
happy to put their money
ignorant.
towards it. So
I'm not ignorant as to why they're doing it. Like, I know the benefits they get from doing it. It's not like I'm saying, oh, why are they doing it? I know why they're doing it. I just don't think they should.
oh yeah, it's more of like a moral question, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
I think
this platform that was designed to give people who don't have large sums of cash to put into projects has now become essentially a marketing tool and a risk, like a risk aversion thing for multi-million-dollar companies.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have seen Kickstarters in the past, like that Monolith one. Do you remember? I remember covering that. Like, there was like a Monolith game system. I'm trying to remember the publisher behind that.
It's Monolith, right? I think Monolith is the maker of Conan and the Batman thing.
Yeah. And that basically just tanked because, like, its expectations were so high and they just weren't met. And it's like, I think people don't realize there is a risk here to Kickstarter. Like, you're not buying something, you're pledging to something in the hopes that it's going to be produced. And especially at the moment where, like, the industry is so sort of dodgy in terms of shipping and things like that. Like, I mean, we had that Assassin's Creed game that was like, oh, can you give us please some more money so we could ship this? And on the one hand, I'm incredibly sympathetic to particular companies who are really struggling right now because of the state of things. I mean, we saw IDW, who deals with licensed games, they went under last week, right? They basically just stopped making games.
Yeah, they've said that they won't make anything. So I don't think it's not like a bankruptcy thing because they're owned by IDW Publishing, the comic maker. But they basically they clarified afterwards. They said, "Hey, we're not going to make any more games. We're going to fulfill." I think they've got a Batman animated series game and a Ghostbusters game. They said, "We'll do that. We'll keep providing customer support, but in terms of new stuff, that's it."
Also, publishers of Machi Koro. Just saying.
Original before it went over to Pandasaurus. Is where it's at.
Pandasaurus.
So. Yeah, they knew to get out when they needed to get out. Am I right?
Yeah. No, Pandasaurus are doing quite well actually. Pandasaurus is one of those publishers that I actually kind of like because they do make games that are like, what the hell is this? And that's kind of fun. Like, it's funny because on the one hand, it's nice to see games based on IP that are actually really good. Like, they're not just, firing them out attacked with the name attached and being like, that's good enough. Like, there are mixed, results. Like, the Horizon Zero Dawn board game apparently isn't very good, but I've not played it. That's just what I've heard from the grapevine. Whereas, like, apparently the Resident Evil 2 one is very good.
Both out of Steamforged. So
both from
Steamforged. Like, Steamforged also responsible for Dark Souls, which is terrible.
Yeah.
But there's also made things like Guild Ball. So
it's the case of, like, for me, obviously, great board games, fantastic, love that. Having the IP attached, obviously that helps with selling it and get people into board games, things like that. That's really fantastic. I'm not of the opinion where I think IPs are just going to take over everything, because I think that the industry boom, I think, is just going to encourage just more board games being made, regardless of whether there's an IP attached or not. Like, this year alone, obviously, we've seen a lot of IP-based games, and they're doing very well, particularly on Kickstarter and things like that. But we're still seeing plenty of games that have no IP attached whatsoever. Like, and I would gather even some of those games that have done very well on Kickstarter, like, aren't necessarily attached to an IP. They've either got, like, a big creator attached to them, or they're just something that people are really into. And you've still got companies like, Ravensburger, Renegade, reasonably large-ish size in comparison, companies that are producing obviously IP-based stuff. Renegade is still doing that, but they're also doing stuff outside of that as well. So I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. I don't think IP is going to take over. I certainly think I don't think it's going anywhere. It's still, being really good. But then you've got companies like Fantasy Flight who obviously have Star Wars, whatever, although it seems they're stepping away from Star Wars stuff a lot. Or like Marvel. But then they've got like Arkham Horror, for example, which is basically, it's kind of its own IP, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah. I think it goes a long way on the fact that, like, Lovecraft stuff is just very popular, even though they very much kind of detach from that in a way that makes it a lot more palatable, let's say. But yeah, it happens in video games, it happens in movies. You hope that these places kind of pay the bills with the big $1 million, this is going to sell to hundreds of thousands of people, and it lets them then do the actual kind of like innovative, interesting little projects that might only, interest a couple of tens of thousands rather than hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of really pushes the industry forward. And you see it in things like Oath, right? Like Oath, it's got Cole Worley attached to it and later games, but it's not anything to do with Root. It's nothing to do.
No,
and it's like, when you consider it, it's a really weird concept for a game.
It's a really weird idea, but it's great.
Kind of blew up and people really got into it. So yeah, that's the hope, is that you just continue to see more of that stuff. I think like Later Games is a great example of a company that doesn't do licensed stuff, but has managed to make its own kind of like place in the industry.
Yeah, I think, I'm kind of of the opinion as the community gets larger and the potential audience gets larger, obviously there'll be still plenty of like companies and whatever jumping on bandwagon and creating IP board games. But IP board games have existed for ages anyway, and they're, to be honest, they're getting better, if anything. Like, you still see like, we got a story today on Mario Labyrinth, which they'll always exist. But then you do get some really great licensed games. Like we were talking about Marvel Champions. Like Marvel Champion is genuinely great, and like obviously having that Marvel name attached to it helps a lot. But also it is a game that is fun to play. What do you think, Lolies?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we can move on to our second story, which also I've saved it for second because it moves us nicely into this week's segment. But if you've watched Dicebreaker for a while, you'll have seen us play Blades in the Dark more than once, at least twice. We might have played it more than that. I think Johnny, they did a video on why you should play it as well. So we've covered Blades in the Dark quite a bit. But Alex Meehan, what's next for Blades in the Dark?
Oh goodness, I'm in the chopper. I'm in Victorian London.
It's a steampunk chopper.
Yeah, it's Duskfall technically, but yeah, I'm in the fantasy land of Duskfall. I've probably got that wrong. No,
I think it's Duskfall.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm not going to be called out. Yeah.
Get to the news.
I've got hecklers from the side. Yeah. So the news is Blades in the Dark, the role-playing game, is being made into a television show.
I'm very excited about that, actually.
Yeah, no, we know very, very little about it. The main details we have are it being produced by a company called Warp Films. They've previously done some pretty good stuff, actually. Like This Is England 86, which is that series about like the mod scene of the 1980s, and that the kind of film version of Everybody's Talking About Jamie, which is that musical that's like LGBTQ plus in a school. That's kind of what I know about it. I think there's drag queens involved. I'm old. I don't watch what the kids do anymore.
Yeah, but I think
the youngest one here.
We know that like a D&D series is coming up, right? Like a Netflix series, I want to say.
No,
not
Amazon.
a Netflix series.
It's Amazon.
Is it Amazon? Okay.
It's Amazon.
Yeah, there's obviously the D&D film, there's the D&D series, we've got Magic the Gathering, but to see something like Blades, which is like Blades is popular, but it's not D&D
Magic level,
D&D
yeah.
popular. So yeah, I'm like,
but I think
like you,
the
Lolies, I'm excited for this.
The kind of theme and the world and stuff is strong enough that you don't even need to know what it's from, what it's based on. Like I think it's just such a strong. It just feels like when you play it, it feels like you're in this kind of like, you almost feel like you're in a film or in a TV series.
Yeah, because it's got like the flashbacks and you're obviously on a heist, so it is very much like you have this very obvious kind of like arc that you set out on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world itself is like it is so sort of well realized without, if it makes sense, it's not like, the Forgotten Realms, for example, where there's like 5,000 pages of lore out there about it and the people who live there. Like there's not like a huge amount of lore available about Duskfall, but it's done so well that it does feel so, well realized. And I do think it could be a really good setting.
I think
series.
Deadlands would also be a good one.
Deadlands is another really good one. I can see that being like oh my god, they've done like some what was that Western series that was pretty good? Deadwood, is it?
Yeah, Deadwood. Yeah,
Deadwood. There's Deadwood.
I was gonna say with Shane Ritchie, but it's not. It's with Ian McShane.
Not Shane Ritchie.
I think actually like Bone Tomahawk has like kind of like Deadlands-esque.
Yeah, but that's not exactly like the most accessible thing in the world, is it?
No.
It's one of the roughest films I've ever watched. It's rough. But no, I think a Blades in the Dark series could be really interesting. I can imagine something like Peaky Blinders mixed with the fantasy and like, TV series adaptations are very hot right now, and we're seeing like a Wheel of Time series, which they should have done a Stormlight Archives one first and then done Wheel of Time, frankly. Because Stormlight Archives is so good that I just feel like it would work so well as a TV show, man. Like,
I will say it's nice to see like because Blades isn't really a fantasy. It has like a tinge of fantasy.
It has some fantasy elements.
But to
It's more
see
steampunk,
a show that is not just because there's a Lord of the Rings show coming out. There's the D&D show. Obviously, there's a Game of Thrones spin-off or prequel.
Oh
sequel,
God, why are they still doing this? Have you seen the wigs? Have you seen the wigs, Matt Jarvis?
I have not seen the wigs, Alex.
Have you seen Matt Smith's wig?
We don't have time for wigs. But speaking of wigs,
I'm gonna send you a
and
picture
speaking
of
of Blades in the Dark. This week's segment, we decided let's just lay out. We know nothing about this Blades in the Dark TV series, so let's lay out who we would cast in a Blades in the Dark TV series. What kind of like vibe it would go for? Maybe who's behind the camera as well.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm getting distracted by Matt
I don't
Smith
know
wig.
celebrities.
Lolies, you agreed to this earlier.
I know, but I didn't think about what it actually mean.
We can't steer away mid-podcast. This is why.
Oh.
It's fine. Matt and I are bursting full of ideas.
Why don't you say your ideas and I'll just say yes or no to them?
Okay, you can be like, we're selling it to you. You're like,
Yes.
You're the
production
Hollywood
company.
producer.
I'm the producer.
Yes, there you go. Is that your producer outfit?
Yes.
Are you wearing
This is my mustache, beard.
Alex, me and I'm looking at these wigs. They are not good. Okay.
I want those wigs in our show, please.
No, we want Blades in the Dark to be
Get me
good.
pictures of these wigs on my desk.
I need pictures of the wig man.
I want pictures of these wigs on my desk by Monday morning.
Okay, so let's
Danny
do this.
DeVito, let's just get that out.
Yeah, we were saying earlier that maybe like in Dicebreaker fashion, Danny DeVito needs to be present, but Danny DeVito can play everybody in every flashback. So,
Yes.
And it's like a metaphor for
it's
their
normal.
fuzzy memory of what happened.
As a producer, I say yes to the Danny DeVito flashback casting.
Yes, excellent. We've got that's all. That's the thing I cared about most, to be honest. Everything else is just an add-on. No, that'd be great. I think having Danny DeVito as everyone in the flashback, because Danny DeVito himself is kind of a mystery, isn't he? He's like a fantastical figure.
I feel
so. Like having him as everyone is kind of like, oh.
Yeah, he's either everyone in every flashback, or he's basically reprising his Penguin from Batman, but as the person you're heisting from.
Both.
Yeah, or both. Yeah, sure.
Look,
yeah.
We've got Danny DeVito for 10 days, Matt Jarvis. We're going to take maximum advantage of Danny DeVito.
Okay, who else have we got in our heist crew?
Oh, okay, in the heist crew, right? In the heist crew,
See, I'm going to say
Brendan Fraser, obviously.
Brendan Fraser. He's coming back. He's back on screen now.
He is. He's having a comeback. And I think Brendan Fraser would be really good.
Yeah.
As like the kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's got a warmth about him that you just can't ignore. So I feel like he would be good as like maybe the kind of grounded, or like the kind of, he gives advice to the crew as being like, oh, I was in a dark place once, but now I'm good, but I'm gonna help you. And I'm not going to do any bad things because I'm too nice.
I mean, do you think of The Mummy? That was him kind of tomb raiding. He could fit into a heist movie, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm saying no to Brendan Fraser.
No, how dare you, Loli? No. You can't say no.
I'm the producer. I can say what I want. You're fired.
Hollywood sweetheart, Brendan Fraser.
No, I don't want him in my heist movie. Thank you very much. Nope.
Okay.
He's not dark enough.
Oh, you need like someone with grit. Who's like? I don't know who's
he's
gritty.
too nice. I just want to, I want to.
Yeah, but you need some levity. You can't just have everyone.
Yeah, not Brendan Fraser. I'm sorry, but no.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Okay, we need more slimy people, Matt.
Well, I wasn't going to say slimy, but I was going to say I reckon Idris Elba, because like Luther's quite like a tonally dark show.
Yeah.
So like just swap his kind of like coat for like a more steampunky, like put some pipes and some brass bits on it. I reckon Idris Elba would fit right in. He's got that kind of like. Give
Idris Elba a pipe.
Idris Elba's also got a pretty good voice, like for this kind of scene. I'm yes to Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Okay,
Idris Elba's in.
He could be your grounded.
He's Knuckles.
He's Knuckles. That's also his name in in this Blaze in the Dark TV show.
Yeah,
He's playing
hopefully.
Knuckles twice.
We won't get a lawsuit from that.
No, I'm sure.
Obviously, we need Jason Statham. Because you can't have anything vaguely Londonish themed without Jason Statham. Thank you very much.
Is this just going to end up as the remake of the Italian Job? Was Jason Statham
I'm saying
in that?
no to Jason Statham.
What? I've not even given you my argument yet.
Okay, fine.
Hear
go
me
for
out. Right, Jason Statham can play like the guy who just like punches everyone, and he is like, oh, cool, like he's having a bad time. He can do all like the fun zingers, like
I'm putting you to sleep, sunshine.
If you want Jason Statham in the show, he can be somebody who's on the opposing side of the main characters, but he's not a main character.
I'll take that. I'll take it as long as I get him in there. He's got to be in this.
Right. Next up, Zendaya.
Yes, she's pretty good. Yeah,
she's great in Spider-Man. She is also America's Sweetheart. She could just be like the kind of like young, peppy upstart heist kid. Like she's the audience surrogate entering into this kind of dark world. Exactly. Yeah. Like Oliver style. Yeah, Oliver Twist style pickpocket for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, to Zendaya, big fan.
Yeah, great. We've got Zendaya.
She can do the musical interlude as well.
So we've got Idris and Zendaya so far.
Yeah. Can I please put in a vote for Eva Green?
Yeah, okay.
Eva Green can play like the Whisper. Do you know like the Whisper is like if people don't know Blaze in the Dark, the Whisper role is like the kind of person who can commune with the spirit that live in like Duskfall and sort of float around. And they're very canon, they're very weird, they're very kind of like mysterious and gothic and things like that. And I think if anyone can pull that off, it's Eva Green, because she did the amazing job in Penny Dreadful. She plays like a weird kind of creepy person in that. And I think she'd be very good in this as that role, please.
Yes, to Eva Green.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I was going to suggest Helena Bonham Carter, but I feel like we can't have Eva Green and Helena.
Yeah, we can't have
Carter. Yeah.
I think Helena Bonham Carter can also be somebody who's not like part of the crew, but is like
in a different fashion, weird woman who just hangs around. Yeah. She can be like, because like Blade in the Dark is somewhat inspired by Dishonored, right? And there is a character in the world of Dishonored called Granny Rags, who is like a weird woman who hangs around, but we could kind of have like a Granny Rags type person that Helena Bonham Carter could be, because the weirder they are, the happier she is.
Basically
Helena
reprising
Bonham
the
Carter
character
would absolutely steal the show with that background.
Yeah. She would steal the show.
Okay,
Matt Jarvis, what about you?
So we've got Idris Elba, Zendaya, Eva Green.
Yeah, Eva Green. Yeah.
And wait, did we say anyone else? I can't remember.
I mean, obviously, like Danny DeVito.
Oh, Danny
DeVito is only flashbacks.
You don't have to put him on the casting list because he just is.
Just is.
Yeah.
Could I please put forward a combo of
Jedward.
Willem Dafoe? No, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, please. Because those two working together is a dream team.
I'd take that. Yeah, I feel like Willem Dafoe is a good call. And
Willem
Robert
Dafoe
Pattinson
would be like the spider. Willem Dafoe would make an amazing like Greasy Fingers. Like when I was making Greasy Fingers, I was imagining Willem Dafoe as Greasy Fingers, right? The people who might not know who Greasy Fingers is, he's a character I played in like our first playthrough of Blade in the Dark, and he's basically like a Fagin type character who just has like cool strings everywhere, a little bit like my God, from Game of Thrones, like Varys,
yeah.
That's the one, like, but Willem Dafoe is that. Can you imagine him in his weird, like, creepy top hat and his rags, and he's like, oh.
Yeah, I don't. And Robert oh wait, what's the
thumbs up, thumbs down? Who's thumbs down to?
Thumbs down to Robert Pattinson. Thumbs up.
Oh, see, Robert Pattinson, I feel he's got like post Twilight. He's had a really strong run.
Not on my show.
Okay, how about Daniel Radcliffe, the other kind of post-childhood star who like moved into very weird, like independent films? I reckon he could be like one of the side like hench people of the villain, and just do his whole like I'm in a dressing gown with guns thing, or I am a corpse,
or I'm a corpse that farts. Yeah, that I could definitely say. Could I also put Look, Sam Robinson's our Pats is on the up. He's Batman. Come on, like
Who cares? Who cares what Sam Robinson says?
Can I also put forward Aquafina, please? Because she is incredibly talented and she's very funny. And she was in a film with Danny DeVito, so they know each other. They've worked together before. And Aquafina is just, I could imagine her as being like, a sly sort of, you know, part of the heist crew. What are you laughing at? You're looking at Aquafina.
I'm trying to find... All I'm getting is...
How are you spelling Aquafina?
Oh.
That's probably why. She's like a musician and like an actor.
How do you spell it?
You spell it's AWKWAFINA.
Okay.
Which is
oh. What's she been in? Because I recognize her face.
I think she was in that Netflix
Oh, she's in the rap
series.
song My Vag, apparently. So.
Right,
Yeah. Can we say that on the show? Well,
Yeah.
That's what we said now. That's the beauty of live streaming.
Yeah,
Right.
she did do that rap song. And
I will say yes to Aquafina.
That's good.
I'm also saying yes to Aquafina. The water. We're gonna have that on set.
Oh, great! Sponsorship.
Yes.
All right.
Oh yeah, she's in the new Marvel film as well. She's hot right now. She's hot.
All right. Well, great job. We've cast Blades in the Dark, the TV series. Wait, before we move on from this, who's directing at least the pilot?
Me.
Lolies.
You're producing.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I can do both.
Well. Matt
Do
Jarvis,
not say Zack Snyder. I swear to
no,
God.
not visionary director Zack Snyder. Matt Jarvis. Why can't I remember the name of the guy who did Twin Peaks?
David Lynch.
David Lynch will do it.
Yeah, I would say like David Lynch or Jordan Peele are the two.
Oh, Jordan.
Those
Peele
are the two
also
shoe-ins. Like very good at
they
like
work together.
unsettling horror. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like kind of like Lynch and Frost on Twin Peaks. Like they just split it between
Can
them.
we get Udo Kier in there as well?
No.
Fine.
All right. Excellent work.
Okay.
That's the Blades in the Dark series that we want to see. That almost certainly won't happen.
Yeah, we won't get that.
But just imagine if it did.
I think we're probably wrong with a lot of it, but I reckon the whole Danny DeVito plays everyone in the flashbacks thing will be the one thing that will actually.
Yeah, I think that'll be the thing that
Yeah.
definitely happens.
All right. Before we go, let's move on to a couple of questions from the audience. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so at podcast@dicebreaker.com. If you're watching live, you can drop it in the chat. Or you can get in touch on Twitter @JoinDicebreaker and places like that.
Or don't. We don't. Whatever.
Or don't. Hey, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Lolies, would you like to read this one from James Marsden?
From James.
First on the list.
James. Singular James. Hello, James. James says, any games you wish to play but can't for whatever reason? Yes. I can't play Secret Hitler. I would love to play that. I would love to play Two Rooms and a Boom. Can't play that. I'd love to play many games that you require to be in the same room. Well, you don't require, but they are definitely much better to play in the same room.
It's a large group.
With lots of people. I don't have a huge... Obviously, I've moved out of London recently, and I don't have any friends yet. So I have one friend who lives kind of close, but I don't have like a group of friends yet that I can play big games like that with. So any games that require more than 3 players.
Loli, shall we crowdfund?
Get
Loli's friends.
Like electoral crowdfund.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I think
I'm going to a class tonight, so I'm hoping to make some friends.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm like a little child going off, trying to make some
Hey,
friends.
it's difficult to move.
You need friends no matter what age you are. So you're being brave for doing that, Lolies.
Yeah.
Putting yourself out there. Matt.
I would say a similar thing. Like I am itching to play a game that just takes like a whole afternoon, and you can play it at a very leisurely pace. Like something like the big kind of like Twilight Imperiums or Eclipse or Civilization, like that kind of thing where people take their turn and maybe they go off and like chat for a bit, and you have like 8 people playing, and it's a massive sweeping thing.
Matt,
like diplomacy.
Let's play Root, Matt.
We should play Root. It's been a while since we played Root. We still need to play that new expansion. We haven't played that new expansion yet on the digital version.
Yeah.
We should play that. It's been
everyone
a busy
has
summer.
lights.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
I mean,
The
we
summer
should stream
disappeared.
it because we had said we were streaming it, and then
it released too late, and we just played normal Root. But
Yeah. So then people can watch me get annoyed again.
I have to defend my belt, my woodland
Matt
belt.
so cheated in that game.
I did not cheat. It's a digital version. It's literally impossible to cheat.
I'm with Lolies. Definitely cheated. I saw
Right.
We saw
Alex
you.
Meehan.
Yeah, we both saw you.
Impossible to cheat.
Look.
Please, look, it's the
that
one game that I'm good at. You can't take this away from me. I lose at literally everything else. Like both times I've done You've Never Played with Wheels, he's beaten me at the game I've introduced him to that he's never played before.
That's because he's a
that's just my life.
jammy man. He's jammy.
He is jammy. He is.
Right.
He is.
Alex
He's a
Meehan,
jammy dodger.
what would you play? Given the chance.
If Wheels was a biscuit, he would be a jammy dodger. 100%.
Because he's sweet in the middle,
Oh, he's all
but
gooey.
crunchy on the outside.
No, it's because he's jammy and he's a dodger.
He is a dodger. I'll give him that. He is a dodger. I don't know what that means. Yeah, now I really want a jammy dodger.
I've got some downstairs.
Send them to me, Loli. Post them. What game I would like to play? I want to play Eldritch Horror right now. Right now. I love Eldritch Horror.
Let's do it. Let's
do
rip
it.
off this whole stupid podcast for Eldritch Horror. Nobody wants to see this anyway.
I love this attitude that Lolies has right now, which is like, I don't care, like spin the whole thing.
We're just over an hour from the weekend. You can go play Eldritch Horror if you want. To be fair, Eldritch Horror is one of those big games that like I just like big global scale. Like
We
you
start
just sit
now,
down for a
we
few
won't
hours.
We won't be done before midnight, I guarantee it.
Yeah, and that's just the setup.
Yeah. No, Eldritch Horror is a game that I genuinely really love. And I don't own a copy. I should. It's expensive because money. But it is a game that you do. It's the kind of game, like Matt said, that you set up in the morning or something, and then that's it for the rest of the day. You just work on that baby for the rest of the day. Maybe have some snacks, order some pizza, have a few bevies, and just have a great time. So Eldritch Horror, I want to play that.
Yeah. All right.
I don't think the TTS mod is very good for it.
There's a lot going on in that game. I feel like it's better suited to an actual table. They should make a digital version of it. I don't know why they haven't. They made Mother's Embrace instead, which is not great. All right.
We should watch the videos because we played.
Yeah.
See us out with this last question from Dicebreaker Plus member Baron Breakfast.
Me again?
Yeah. Well, we did a lot of news chatting, so, you know.
Baron Breakfast is asking, what is it about your favorite game that makes it your favorite game? Did you know during your first game that it would become your favorite? Good question, Baron. Everyone knows my favorite game. It's Vast.
Camel up, right?
No, it's Serums, obviously. I did not know it would become my favorite game. I think it was in one of the earlier games that I played when I became like a games guru at a cafe, and we just played it, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then there was I always talk about the moment when I realized it was my favorite game, which was like several games in, but it's my favorite. I think my favorite things, the way I decide that something is my favorite, like be it music or food or board games, is it needs to be something that I would be like, if this was the only thing I could do for the rest of my life, would I be happy with that? And I think Star Realms, I would be happy to just play. If that was the only game I could play for the rest of my life, I'd be pretty happy with it, I think. I could play it like, all day for an entire day and still not be bored of it.
Wow. That's incredible. Like that's genuinely like, because I am the opposite. Like I find it hard to just stick with something. So like anyone who is just like, yeah, like I could do this all the time. Like,
but that's the thing.
I
Yeah,
absolutely
I
admire
get
that,
bored
like,
quite easily. I think that's why I then decide like that's how I choose my favorites, because if I find something that I am willing to do like repetitively, because I'm not really a person who likes things too repetitively, that's how I know like I really like that. Like chicken Caesar salad. I love that. I could eat that like all the time. So that's my favorite food.
For a second, I was like, I've never heard of that board game. I was like, oh, like she means the food.
Dose
like,
by Red
okay.
Hot Chili Pepper is my favorite song because I could listen to that all day, every day. So, I mean, there's
Wait, chicken Caesar salad by Red Hot Chili Peppers is your favorite song?
Dosed.
I don't know that one.
Dosed. I think it's one of those.
Oh
ones
no, I
that
know Dosed. Sorry, I thought I was making a joke about chicken Caesar salad. To be honest, that sounds like a song that they would make. So
It does, yeah.
Yeah,
It does.
that's yeah.
They should.
yeah, like if you've made a song called Yertle the Turtle, you should be able to make a song called Chicken Caesar Salad. Matt Jarvis, what's your favorite board game? If you have one, how did you know?
I'm changeable, but I think at the moment it might be Root. And I think the first few times I played it in person, I really liked it. But it was playing it during lockdown over the internet that really kind of, I think, because again, we played it so much, like we were playing once a week. And as I played it more and more, it kind of settled into like, actually, I really, really like this. I like playing all the different factions.
Yeah, it's because you can cheat in it.
I will say that I played a lot of Oath for the review that I did of Oath, and I want to play more Oath, and I think Oath is right up there as well.
Sorry, Matt.
Why do I even try? God. My wife is meant to be the teacher, not me. Like, I feel like I'm trying to keep class, come on, pay attention. Like, come on, stay on topic.
We're not on topic, we're laughing about you cheating.
Oh, I woke up the cat with my clapping, I'm sorry. Oh no, now she's coming.
Oh no, now you've done it.
Alex Meehan.
Sorry, Matt. No, we laughed through what you were saying. Tell us what you were saying. I feel bad now.
I really like Root. I played it a lot. The first few times I played it, I really liked it, but I don't think it was kind of in contention for my favorite game. And I think it was just playing it weekly and really getting to know all those factions and playing it with like a full table of people really kind of cemented just how much I really love that game. And I played a lot of Oath, which is Corelli's latest game, for our review. And I just want to play more of that with more people because that I feel is also right up there, like already. Like it's a recent release, so maybe it just has that like shine of the new. But it's like just a really, really good game.
Sorry, I just saw Sam Robbins say
Yeah.
he just one-hand yeeted that cat.
Look, I'm a professional. I know how to yeet a cat while not breaking sentence.
I was gonna. I would be up for playing more Root. No, Sugar. I'd be up for playing more Oath.
And Star Realms.
Because I've never played Star Realms.
You've never played Star? Wait, have we already done
I'm in Shrubs now. I'm in Shrubs. Slowly looking at me like I'm committed to terrible sin. I'm serious. I've never played Star Realms. I would like to play Star Realms. I promise you. It's because I like card games like that. Okay, so I would like to play some more Oath because once we realised what we were doing, because that game initially is just a massive overload of rules, just like Root is. Then you're like, oh, this is really fun and interesting and great, and also we have that save still that we can give that another go and see what happens because I'm the Chancellor in that one. I kind of want to see.
Oh yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, because I won, Matt
It's your
Jarvis.
world. Yeah, it's your kingdom
won.
currently, your empire.
I never win at anything, and I won. But Matt Jarvis stole my answer. Root would be my answer as well, because like, Lolies is bored. Like, okay, the thing is, right? Number one, I hate being asked my favorite thing, because I don't believe in having one favorite thing. I think it's rubbish, and I have loads of different favorite things. So, like my favorite board games. Like Betrayal would be there because it's stupid. And I love how stupid it is, and I love that it's horror themed, and I'm watching for the cat. Is the cat going to come?
No. I'm stroking her just beneath the table because that will stop her from jumping up.
I thought you were getting ready to yeet.
No, she was crunching biscuits, so hopefully that wasn't coming through on the microphone. Anyway.
Yeah, I love Betrayal because it's stupid and it's horror themed. But I also love Root. I feel like Betrayal and Root are like my sort of angel and devil.
Yeah, they're two very different
board game world. Yeah, like for me they represent two board games that I love for two very different reasons. I love Betrayal because it's stupid, and like thematically speaking, it's really great. And I just love the idea behind a game like that, where it's like a sort of mini adventure thing.
What happened to Scythe?
Scythe's been overruled by Root. I'm sorry, it's been knocked off the throne by Root. Because they're both games that I like for similar reasons. In the sense that they're both games that you just like, you can chomp into. They're like a big buffet, right? That you keep coming back to. And the more you go back to it, the more delicious it is. That's how I describe games like Root and Scythe. But I think Root is better than Scythe because I like the fact that the factions work so differently, and I feel like there's more nuance in the buffet then. Because like it's like a world buffet. You've got the Indian food, and you've got like the dessert, and you've got like the Japanese food. So you can have loads of very different tasting things that somehow all work very well together on the plate. That was a very complicated battle.
But it leads nicely into the end of the podcast because we will be back next Friday with this particular buffet of delicious board game conversation and a bunch of other stuff. I will say, I'll tease quickly because just by chance, Lee Hiscox said in the chat, don't know why, but would love to see Dicebreaker play Taskmaster. Would be chaos, as that's what happened to us, lol. Maybe stay tuned. Maybe stay tuned in the next few weeks or so. Maybe there's something we might be doing like that.
We currently have at one point we had 69 people watching. So I just had to bring it up.
The nicest of podcasts.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being back. Alex Lolies, welcome back.
Thanks.
Of course.
Thanks. I'm back now, and stick around to see this face.
Which you can see on youtube.com/Dicebreaker. And Alex Meehan, your face can appear on Dicebreaker.com. Thank you for being here also.
If you're not careful, my face will be there.
I've been Matt Jarvis. This has been the Dicebreaker podcast. We'll be back next Friday live from 2 p.m. BST. Until then, if you're in the US, enjoy your long Labor Day weekend. If you're in the UK, just enjoy a normal weekend. You already had it. You just had a bank holiday. Don't get greedy. We'll be back next Friday. Take care out there. Look after yourselves. Until we meet again, have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Bye.